What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri zone. The day before we play Villarreal in the Champions League in a very tough game. One of the next 5 tough games. One of the next 4 out of the 5 away games away to Villarreal. But that's not really what we're going to talk about. We'll do that in the preview. We're going to talk about what Bernardeschi had to say. And I never thought I was going to say this, but, well, I agree with Bernardeschi. But it comes in a perfect moment that he talks about why we're not winning right now, because it's a valid point when we talk about leaders. He's the captain. That's like not Locatelli. It should be Bremer. It should be this. Doesn't really matter who the captain is right now when the captain, and there's not a dig towards Bremer or whatever, hasn't have had that winning experience. Is that the biggest issue at this club? Like, for example, Napoli do not have at this moment. Milan are even trying to change. Are we the team where it's like we do not have actual real winners in this squad? So that's what we're going to talk about. Before we do that, as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel because there's also an update on Vlahovic. Okay, so Bernardeschi spoke, and he was asked the question, what was the difference? Why was Juve winning back then when you were there, or like for these 9 years in a row? Excuse me. Why? Like, what has changed? And we always talked about how the quality needs to improve. Obviously, the quality we've had back then compared to now is just levels. If you actually even think about it, you're like, well, damn, the drop off is big. But he was like, it's the leadership, it's the people who have been there at the club for a very long year and have won stuff. Whoever came into the club, they made it very clear what it is to play for this club. But they also made it clear in a very natural way. He talked about Cristiano Ronaldo and said everybody thinks he's arrogant. Everybody thinks that he's, I'm the best and whatever, listen to me, I want to do this, this, and this. It's going to be this way or nothing, whatever. He said, actually, no, he's very down to earth. He's a person who in the locker room is very involved. He talks with everyone. He makes everybody at ease. He makes it very clear what the expectations are, etc. But also, as youngsters, or players new at the team, you listen to them because they have won stuff. Now we'll go back to this scenario when we talk about who should be the captain of the team, and it's like, oh, Locatelli is the captain, oh, he's not a good enough captain, or Bremer is the captain, oh, he's not a good enough captain, or like he shouldn't be the captain, or Yildiz, or like all that talk. At the end of the day, I think a captain should be a guy who leads, who is the best team player on the pitch, who can make a difference. Bremer is that. But how are you going to transmit a winning mindset when you actually haven't won with this club, really? Like, that's what I'm trying to say, And some have won a Copa or whatever, or Super Copa, but it's not really the winning feeling. And then I went back to the time, when we, start winning again with Antonio Conte. Chiellini, Bonucci were not those guys at that time. We had Buffon who had won, Del Piero who had won, like really won stuff, and Pirlo who came in as a free agent signing. But that's kind of your spine. Even though Del Piero didn't really was a starter in that season, it's Del Piero. You look up to those players, Right now, we're not even close to that, When I look at the Napoli squad, you can laugh, but players like Di Lorenzo and etc. Politano as well, they've won the Scudetto. They know what it is winning. Yes, to a different degree when it comes to Buffon, Del Piero, and Pirlo, but they have won stuff, and they add De Bruyne, who actually won stuff. Milan they won, I think, the league with them as well, but they had Modric, who has won, like he won the Ballon d'Or, like he won stuff, and that is the experience that we are missing. When I think you can go back on this channel when we were linked with Modric, I was like, or De Bruyne, I was like, yeah, we should be doing that. If it's feasible, you should be doing that because we need that in this team. Besides them doing actually well in this league, which was never going to be a shock, which you also discussed. It's good to have a leader, but also like the winning mindset. The players you bring in, need to come into their locker room and be like, okay, this is it, And when they speak, you're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to you. Are people listening to Bremer? Is Bremer speaking? I have no idea. But there's a difference between a leader and actually the leaders we had in the past. And that's what Bernardeschi is talking about. Well, you need to get back to winning ways. That's the only way you're going to solve this. And that's why we're in this scenario right now and changing and chopping players every single year and new 3 and 4 out 5 and you're changing so much and it's becoming so like Milan, like excuse me, yeah, Milan as well, but like Man United, for example, just buying players every single season, but you buy random players and you add them to already random players. You add them to players who haven't won stuff. Like you're creating a scenario or situation where it's impossible to win because there's a lot of individual quality, maybe, but you cannot mix that together. I have that feeling right now. I think there's quality enough to do better in terms of how we play and also long term throughout the season. But there needs to be some sort of glue. And right now, like I don't think that that's there, and some might believe it's Tudor, for example, because the coach is that. But is that the case? That's up for a debate, But I thought it was a good point that Bernardeschi made, and an interesting one because when we talk about captains, yes, a captain on the pitch, whatever, but a real captain, I think that's what we're missing. Or real leaders, I think we're still missing that. Also, a Vlahovic update because the reports are going wild about the club is going to sell him in January. When Chiellini said no chance, I do believe Chiellini because if you need to sell Vlahovic in January, there needs to be an offer of at least 20 million. I don't see anyone offering 20 million for a free agent unless they are some horrible situation with injuries, etc. But even for Vlahovic, why would he do that mid-season? So I don't see that happening. I still think an extension might be on the board for some reason, maybe because the Jonathan David experiment doesn't work or the Panda experiment doesn't work, and Vlahovic, lowers his wages, whatever. What I do think is going to happen is he's going to play with us until the summer, and think unless something insane happens, which nobody's reporting right now. It's like, the club wants some money. Yeah, if somebody offers 20 million, maybe, but nobody's going to offer that. So we need to assume he's going to stay here. And what that means for Jonathan David, I know a lot of reports out there from Zettelor Sport. Oh, he fell down the packing order. I found that very strange. How have you fallen down the packing order when you started the two first game of the season and the entire preseason, and now you fell down the packing order when you scored in one and didn't score in the other? I don't know. I find the reporting very odd. I want to see David play. I think he deserves a shot. Openda got a shot, wasn't good. Vlahovic got a shot from the start, wasn't good. I'm not sure what was happening with Jonathan David, why he's not getting a shot. And actually, in games where you should be using him. Atalanta, bring him on earlier because you can see Atalanta are not opening up. They're closing it down. Bring him in earlier. It helps. It would have helped our play, obviously, if he came in and he was able to hold on to the ball, etc. But that's his game, You bring in players that don't suit that moment. Vlahovic, for example, he's not going to do that. So very odd decision. So I hope we can see Jonathan David because I think he deserves a fair shot again, and maybe against Villarreal we will see Jonathan David. But what I've seen from Villarreal, it makes no sense to start Jonathan David. In that game, you'd rather start a Vlahovic or a Panda because that game is going to be more open. So, I mean, it's a bit weird, the situation, but that's what it is. 3 strikers, and he's only willing to pick one. And right now, I think he's picking the wrong ones for each single game. And then on top of that, we're chopping and changing the front line every single week as well, which is just bizarre. You're not going to create any, chemistry. It's like relying on individual brilliance every single week because you're chopping and changing every single week. But in the comment sections, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will speak to you guys later tonight for a preview. Ciao.